Hello everyone, my name is Benjamin Yoder with OneControlReport.com, here today to talk to you about Wii Ski and Snowboard. I love the original Wii Ski. It was one of my favorite games that I played last year, and I was kind of not quite sure what to expect in its sequel, Wii Ski and Snowboard, if it was going to be kind of more of the same, but just like snowboard mechanics tacked on, or if it was going to be a more expansive sequel. And this game kind of falls somewhere in between. Mechanically, it's largely the same, but it does have like an expanded scope, and it also does some restructuring to the quest system, as well as introduces something called like a thumbs up achievement system, essentially. But despite feeling very similar to the original, and the fact that I love that original game, I came away pretty disappointed with Wii Ski and Snowboard specifically. I think it's worth noting that, if you want to see a more positive review or want like full context for my complaints, I would recommend watching my original quick play of Wii Ski first. And a big part of that reason is because I feel like the changes made to this game really disrupt that core casual like ski vacation feeling that the original game gave off. But first, before I start complaining too much, I want to focus more on like what was improved and what was added that kind of sets this game apart from Wii Ski. So when you're playing this game, it's going to feel very similar to the original. You're using the motion controls of the Wii Remote again, swinging the Wii Remote and nunchuck to kind of gain momentum, and tilting them in various ways to turn, speed up. You can also use like button presses to kind of modify how you're turning the skis. And there's also some improvements like being able to perform tricks at any time, where previously you could only do it off specified jumps. So there's some slight improvements here in terms of the controls. As you might guess by the title, the big thing here is that in Wii Ski and Snowboard, they include a snowboard now. And when you're using the Wii Remote and nunchuck, it basically plays the same. The snowboard is more or less a skin rather than it is like a new way to play this game. They also kind of map the controls of the ski to the snowboard mechanics as well, so it doesn't really have that same feeling that using the Wiimote and nunchuck have, where moving the poles and things like that when you're skiing. So it doesn't feel quite as natural as the ski controls, but it definitely works perfectly fine. And if you've played the original Wii Ski or play with the skis and you switch over to snowboard, you'll be right at home, basically. I didn't play with the balance board, and I could definitely see that being an experience that a balance board feels a bit more appropriate, so it feels more like using an actual snowboard, but I didn't get the chance to try that, unfortunately. So a big improvement in this game is that there are two mountains instead of one. So the original game has this resort-style mountain you could kind of go down, and this game has a new one of those. And it feels a lot more open in places. There's also a lot of like more secret paths on this one. And there's also like these more trick-focused environments, so you can go and do a lot more tricks. You can also like grind on rails and jump between different rails and stuff. So it definitely has a more playful feeling in certain tracks, and as well as a more explorative feeling, as you can kind of like choose different paths and find little nooks and crannies to explore the mountain on. And it still maintains that vibe that the original game has, where like, especially at like nighttime, where you can like look at the mountain, there's like the glow of neon lights that are lighting up the ski course. There's also like, fireworks that go off, and like the static, like distant speaker audio you can get, where you have like, Namco music blaring over the speakers, but it just sounds like really distorted in a way that feels very much like you're on a mountain with just like these speakers off in the distance, essentially. The second mountain that they include in this game is a new type of mountain. It's an open range mountain, and it's mostly natural. There's not really any real man-made stuff on this mountain. And this mountain in particular, where the previous one has like more paths and things you can go down, this one has lots of wide open spaces. Many of the courses are broken up into basically various paths that feel more like extensive paths than just like the rare like shortcut or something on what was on the ski resort. And it also has a kind of a simple aesthetic where it's basically just this natural environment that looks really good on the Wii, and because it's basically just like snow and mountains and things like that and trees, I think it still holds up pretty well today, despite running in 480p rather than like an HD resolution. But it does feel a lot less lively because it is just like this kind of mountain that you're on. There's no like wildlife or anything. It's like a bunch of fossils and rocks everywhere, occasionally some trees and things like that. So there's not a lot going on here. It's more about finding different paths, and the secret paths in this map are also much more elaborate. You have like these giant ice caves you can kind of go down. You also have these kind of big caverns that have these big cliffs you can fall down and things like that. So it definitely feels a bit more raw in terms of like a natural environment. But I personally prefer the resort style because it does feel more like a vacation, where this feels more like, you know, you're just kind of exploring a mountain like any other kind of snowboarding and skiing game. So these more open environments actually kind of feed into a new progression in this game, and that's the thumbs up achievement system I mentioned earlier. There's like these hidden elements all around both mountains that include, you know, finding various NPCs that are kind of just standing around. You can find like special trick points, so you can do like tricks off a rooftop and get a thumbs up for that. You can also find like secret paths and areas that you get thumbs up for finding as well. And this is the biggest change to this game, and it really does put an emphasis on exploration, where the original game didn't really have that much for you to find outside of, you know, whenever they had a quest or something that told you to go look for something. This game just has things spread out through the environment that you can find. And this is kind of where We Ski and Snowboard starts to fall apart, in my opinion, because all of the achievements are hidden. There's no information on what they are. There's no clues on where you can find these things. You just got to kind of mess around, and eventually you'll stumble across something. And you know, if you're just kind of exploring the mountain or something like that, I definitely could see, you know, it being kind of exciting to just you know, look around and stumble across something. But if you're like looking to, you know, actually ski or snowboard in this game, it becomes a bit more of a chore, because you're kind of combing these environments over and over and over again, trying to make sure that you're not missing anything. Like, you know, if you want to go down this one path, and because the game's more open-ended, you know, you often have to go down various sides of this path to make sure you don't like miss an NPC that's just like standing in like a little corner somewhere. You really have to kind of just do the same section of the mountain over and over and over again until you find, you know, whatever's there. And since you don't know what those objectives are, oftentimes there can be nothing there. You don't know that there's nothing there. You just, you know, look and hope you did a good enough job covering the area to kind of sign off on that area and be like, okay, I guess there's nothing hidden there. I think it just kind of wears on you a bit, because there's just not a lot of direction on where you should be going and finding these things. It also doesn't help that, you know, like skiing and snowboarding is very much like a downward momentum sport. So if there is like something that looks suspicious or something that you want to go explore, but you pass by it or it's like above you instead, the only way to get back to it is to warp back to the top of the mountain, go down the course, get back to that area, and hope that you're able to kind of like navigate your way to that section in a fairly effective manner. Or you can very slowly climb back up the mountain. And it feels like a game that wants you to be able to explore in 360 degrees to find a lot of these secrets, but because of the nature of what the game is, you kind of are limited in how you can actually navigate the environment and how thorough you can be in exploring these different sections and exploring like the different parts of the mountain. So if they implemented this achievement in the original game, I think this wouldn't have been like a big of a deal, because there's a lot for you to do on the mountain, and the game kind of encourages you to kind of naturally go down the mountain and just kind of do things as you're going down the mountain. So there's various like quest NPCs that would kind of move around the mountain, so you could go and like find somebody and do their task before, you know, going down to the next area where you might find another quest. And there's also like a course ranking system as well, where the game would kind of rank you based off how well you were actually skiing to kind of the bottom of the mountain. Both of these things are kind of disrupted by We Ski and Snowboard, though. How they handle the quest system actually really discourages you from exploring the mountain, because most of the quests are hosted at the bottom of the mountain, and instead of the NPC kind of traveling from point to point on the map, so you kind of like stumble across them as you're just skiing around and exploring, they're just always here in the one spot that they start in, and they basically offer you a list of quests, and then when you select that quest, they'll either teleport you to where you need to be, or they ask you to go directly to an area. So there's not a lot of opportunity when doing these for you to just kind of, you know, explore an environment. Also, most of the charming dialogue is gone as well, since they use generic text for accessing the list rather than quest-specific dialogue. So you don't really get any kind of evolving dialogue as you do different quests with these characters until you do the final quest, where they basically say, oh, you did a great job, you're now the delivery king or something like that. And you know, I think some people will be like, why are you complaining about the lack of dialogue in a Wii Ski game? But I think a big part of this original game and kind of adding to that atmosphere of like the ski vacation is just like the cute characters in the game, kind of their little problems that they had and how you solved those, and kind of the reactions they had to solving those problems. And also the original Wii Ski has a very sweet ending that kind of has a chunk of those quests like feed into that sweet ending kind of thing. And without that dialogue and in place, there's really no ending to this game. You just kind of do the quests and people thank you, and that's kind of it. So because of this like format they use for delivering quests to you, it ends up becoming more like a grind, because basically what happens is you go to the bottom of the mountain, you mash through the generic text somebody has, you select the next quest item on the list for you to do, you can complete the objective, sometimes they'll even teleport you right back to where that NPC is, and then you just go ahead and select the next quest and repeat, and you just do that over and over and over again as you go down the list. And because they're all kind of just like laid out in front of you, you often end up doing them in bulk, so it feels like there's a lot less variety that you would get if you were just like naturally exploring the mountain and then stumbling across the quest, in a random order essentially. They also use the snowboard as an excuse to like double up on some events as well. So it'll be like, hey, here's this trick course, but you have to do this trick course with the skis, and then there's another NPC that gives you trick course things for the snowboard, but it's literally the exact same quest line. I believe literally the exact same tricks outside of some of the tricks that differ between the ski and the snowboard and how they deliver them to you. So it just feels like it was just kind of a lazy design choice to kind of pad out the events in this game. And again, there's very little difference between the ski and the snowboard, so there's no real change in challenge between using the skis and the snowboards to complete those quests. So one other big element that I think was kind of key to the success of the original Wii Ski was the course ranking system. So even if you weren't doing a quest, or you just completed a quest and you need to go find another one, you could still basically go through a course and get like a ranking based off that as you're skiing down the mountain. You didn't have to activate that course or anything, it just was something that happened naturally as you kind of traveled around the mountain. And they had this really handy scorecard feature that would just show us your score on screen, and also gave you the option to look at how you performed in different categories, so you knew how you could better improve on that course, so the next time you come down that course, you could do a better run essentially. And a course ranking system does exist in Wii Ski and Snowboard, but you would likely not even know that. I did not know about it until I stumbled across information on a Games Facts board. So the course performance has been implemented into the achievement system, and like I said earlier, they hide achievements. So when you're going down the mountain, it doesn't tell you if you don't succeed, it doesn't tell you that course ranking is even there or an option for you to get, unless you successfully clear the course, and then they'll give you a thumb up. So until you actually do it accidentally on one course, you won't know. And because you're always exploring these mountains looking for, different little like places and achievements and things like that to kind of find, you typically aren't like, going for a best run. You're typically moving fairly slowly down the mountain as you kind of explore every single spot on the mountain. So once you actually know that these are in place and you try to achieve them, the game doesn't actually tell you how to succeed in these either. So they don't give you a ranking system, they don't give you little breakdowns of what they're looking for on each mountain. So as far as I can tell, there's no way to really know how to succeed in these. I think they may only be speed based in this game, but that's only speculation on my part. And I've also heard when I was reading online that not every course is included, so you may be trying to grind out one course, but you may not necessarily have an achievement to get for that course. It's only for specific courses on the map. But again, they don't tell you what courses those are. That latter one, I don't know if that's actually true, but given how hidden everything is in the game, there's no real way for me to know whether or not that is, unfortunately. So it's really a huge shame because, like I said earlier, this game plays very similar to the original, and there's a lot of improvements here with, being able to do tricks without having to go off like a ramp. There's also the additional mountains to explore, there's more expansive environments in general, and there's just more things to find in the world. But the fact that a lot of the core progression is hidden makes it feel really disjointed, because you don't necessarily know what you're trying to do or what you're trying to achieve when going down the mountain. And then even when you do know what you're doing, they're often in quest lists that are at the bottom of the mountain that don't ask you to actually explore. Also, the exploration is very much expecting you to kind of fully explore these mountains, yet the game's mechanics are very downward focused. So it just feels like the ideas they had here and the focus on exploration didn't really fit into the core structure that they were trying to shove this game into. And I think the 7-month development period this game may have had. Like I said, this game came out the same year as Wii Ski, so I'm guessing there wasn't a ton of time to work on this game. But I think ultimately, because of these things, it just kind of fails to recreate that original ski vacation feeling that the game had. So if you really like the ideas behind Wii Ski and Snowboard, or you're looking at this game and saying, you know, I like what's going on here mechanically, and you haven't played the original, I know it might be tempting to say come to this one because there are some improvements here, but I really encourage you to play the original Wii Ski because the execution of all these elements is definitely significantly better there, where this game just kind of sloppies it up and it doesn't really come out well. Anyways, that's it for this video. Thanks for coming. Like I said earlier, if you didn't go watch my original Wii Ski quick play, I definitely highly recommend going checking that out. That's definitely a lot more positive. Again, one of my favorite games that I played last year for that one. Also, I have some other Wii related videos, and I'll go ahead and choose one to link at the end of the video here too. If you enjoyed this video on YouTube, go ahead and like and subscribe. I'd appreciate that. And otherwise, you can head to onecontrollerport.com to see a variety of content on there, including videos, podcasts, articles, things like that as well. Anyways, that's it for this week. I hope you have a great week. Bye.